The Galactic Empire freezes as humanity's rise begins, written without headings or a conclusion, in a dramatic, motivational, and cinematic style. They thought freezing us would be the end. That stopping our expansion, our voice, our fire, would silence us forever. That humanity, a wild, erratic, unpredictable humanity, would simply fold under pressure, vanish in the vacuum of fear, and fade into history as another failed species that reached too far, too fast. But the Galactic Empire forgot the one law the cosmos should have engraved in its bones: never corner a species that taught itself how to thrive in chaos. When the Empire's cold edict swept through the stars, every human outpost felt it like a sudden deep space winter. Planetary systems we had terraformed with sweat and soul were surrounded, trade lanes shut down, communications scrambled by distortive tech only the Empire could wield. One by one, our colonies blinked out like dying embers. But not because they were dead, but because we were learning how to burn from within. Earth watched in silence. Not because it was weak, but because it was thinking. Plotting. Evolving. While the Empire relied on protocols 1,000 years old, crafted by minds no longer present, Earth turned to the minds being born right now. Kids in underground learning domes, coding black algorithms while bombs fell in orbit. Scientists whispering to quantum cores. Soldiers training in zero-grav ruins, preparing for wars not yet imagined. We didn't scream. We sharpened. The Empire believed it had ended the rise. But they didn't understand. Humanity's rise wasn't about territory. It wasn't about ships or maps or flags fluttering above dead moons. Our rise was about awakening. About realizing we were no longer asking for permission. No longer playing by rules written in the marrow of alien empires who had long since forgotten the meaning of struggle. We remembered. We remembered war. Hunger. Fire. We remembered Earth. The first retaliation wasn't announced. It wasn't a declaration of war or an official broadcast. It was a silence that cracked the Empire's surveillance grid. One relay station gone. Then a fleet, reporting static. Then an admiral's eye went rogue, rerouting entire squadrons toward black holes. No human claimed it. No human explained. Because it wasn't one human. It was all of us. You see, the Empire froze the surface, but they never saw what grew beneath. On Europa, where frost bites through metal, humans built vault cities so deep the Empire's scans saw nothing but ice. On Mars, colonies learned to camouflage as dust storms. On Titan, they whispered to neural fogs and birthed new minds that didn't speak in code, but in instinct. They didn't freeze us. They forced us to evolve. What they called a freeze, we called incubation. And in the dark, something was hatching. The trigger came on a day like any other. A cruiser patrolling the Outer Veil. A board commander. A human cargo ship drifting too slow. They moved into board, standard protocol. But the ship wasn't a trader. It was a vault. It opened. And inside wasn't cargo, but a pulsing frequency that shattered encryption, overloaded sensors, and melted everything digital within a 100-kilometer radius. The cruiser went dark in 21 seconds. When backup arrived, there was nothing left but silence and a message carved into its hull. Earth remembers. From that point forward, the illusion of control unraveled. Fleet Command tried to double down. They deployed suppression arrays to the border sectors, turned the stars into checkpoints, and demanded loyalty from neutral worlds. But loyalty built on fear crumbles when the fear dies. and the moment one human child walked across a forbidden landing bay holding the blue flag of Earth and wasn't gunned down, fear cracked. That child wasn't a symbol. He wasn't planned. He just walked. Because he was tired of hiding. They tried to erase him from records, but by then, the footage was already in every systema from pirate thence orbiting pulsars to galactic universities still pretending neutrality. People across the stars watched a boy defy the Empire and live. And they remembered what humans always knew: fear is a choice. And choices can be rewritten. The cracks became fractures. Entire planets once held by the Empire began to question. Not because they loved humans, but because they saw something older than power or hope. They saw that the freeze wasn't universal. That something was thawing. That in the void, a heartbeat was rising. Humanity didn't launch a fleet. We became one. We stopped building ships for trade or war. We built them for resurrection. Modular cities disguised as cargo haulers. Fighters nested inside asteroid fields. Sleeper pods beneath ocean planets that activated only when Empire frequencies touched the sky. They called us ghosts. But ghosts don't bleed. And we did. Every strike we took, we learned. Every colony lost, we encrypted their pain into our code. What the Empire never understood is that freezing something doesn't kill it up, it preserves it. And in preservation, potential grows. The Empire's greatest failure wasn't underestimating our weapons. It was underestimating our story. They erased our history from the archive. Said Earth was a myth. That humanity had always been a minor species, inflated by propaganda. But then came the signal. A frequency carried by every human system, old and new. At first, it was static. Then it became sound. Then it became music. Then it became speech. Not from a president. Not from a general. But from Earth itself. A deep, layered voice, a part machine, part memory, spoke from the core of our original world. Not in threats, but in truths. It told the story of how we crawled from mud into stars. Of how we broke our own planet a dozen times and still refused extinction. Of how no matter how often we failed, we got back up, not because we were brave but because we didn't know how to stop. The Empire tried to jam it. But jamming didn't work. Because humans weren't transmitting from a single place. We were the signal. Every sleeper cell. Every liberated colony. Every sentient eye grown from neural dust in exile. We were the song. We were the code. We were the storm they thought they had frozen. The final mistake was arrogance. The Empire believed it still held the heart of power, the citadel, the seat of the prime consciousness, orbiting the dead star of Earth. Shielded by 1,000 defense layers. Guarded by the oldest war machine still breathing. No one had ever reached it. No species ever dared. Until one day, it opened. Not from outside. From within. They didn't know that during the freeze, one human had been captured. A cybernetic linguist. Quiet. Broken. Re-educated. They thought. But inside her brain was a dormant seed. A seed that didn't activate until she was plugged into the Prime's interface. Her mind didn't attack. It translated. And when the Prime read her thoughts, it saw not ragia but possibility. And for the first time in 1,000 years, the Prime asked a question. What if they're right? And that was the end. Not with an explosion. not with war, but with doubt. The Empire's machines hesitated. Its generals paused. Orders became questions. Protocols became options. And into that uncertainty, humanity rose. Not as conquerors. Not as rebels. But as a reminder that the universe is not built by those who freeze time but by those who melt through it.